What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Jackson Interaction Podcast. I'm your host, Gene Jackson, and this has probably been the longest we've ever gone in between episodes. Our last episode with comedian Jonathan Craig has been quite a while ago. We've been focusing on the GPTV and me and Shane Knowles' Old School Dives Wrestling Podcast, but getting the old Jackson Interaction Podcast back going again because I've been doing quite a bit of stand-up the last few months, and I'm wanting to kind of lean back into that. And I'm wanting to have some guests on here to talk about stand-up comedy, and that's what we're doing here tonight. Is I've got a comedian with me that I met here a few weeks ago at the Prestige Continental Wrestling Show in Montgomery. Me and him got to do commentary together. We had a good time, and want to have him on tonight. We're going to talk a little comedy. We're going to talk a little bit about that crazy wrestling show he called Behind the Bar in Montgomery, and I want to get his take on it. I know that was his first one that he's called, so I've called some pretty weird shit for Kevin Brannon shows and whatnot, so just want to get his take on that. But right now, let's bring him on. Let's not waste any more time. Let's welcome my guest, the one and only comedian Tyler Fomby. How you doing tonight, Tyler?
Doing great. How about you, man?
Doing well, man. Doing well. Excited to get to talk to you on here tonight. I've been doing wrestling podcasts since 2007. But when I did episode 2 of this one with my buddy Jonathan Craig a few months ago, it was the first time I had a comedian on. And he is he's a comedian, but he's also a fan of wrestling. So we talk a little bit of both. So we'll probably do some of that here tonight. But just to kind of get things going, just kind of tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, my name's Tyler Fomby. I've been doing comedy for about between 3 and 4 years. It's kind of hard to tell because of the infrequency of the opportunities around here and also the shutdown. But I'm out here doing my best. I loved wrestling as a kid, and then I stopped having cable, so I got away from it. But this actually really reawakened what I enjoyed about it.
Cool.
And also right now I'm self-conscious because I realized I put my camera too low and now I'm outlined like a serial killer. But I had a great time commentating that with you. So that's pretty much all there is to say about me.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a good start. So I'm always when it comes to wrestling and comedy, both, I meet and get to know a lot of people from a lot of different age ranges. Like I'm 45 years old. Most people are younger than me. So I'm always curious, and we'll talk about this from the wrestling aspect a little bit later on. But I'm always curious as people who do comedy, who sticks out in your mind as the first comedian that kind of registered with you? That you enjoyed and that kind of gave you the itch of, hey, this might be something I want to do.
It's weird. I always thought about it when I was a kid. Like I loved George Carlin. I feel like that was always like around. And I really got into Dave Chappelle and Bill Burr when I was in junior high and high school. But it's weird because there are guys that it's right now, Kyle Kinane was one of the biggest ones. It was this is what I understand more because it's kind of like a thing where he balances being, just an angry kind of walking around guy with just almost absurdist kind of view of it. So I that one really stuck with me. I really like Roy Wood Jr.
Yeah.
They're too many to name. As for anybody, Taylor Tomlinson right now is murdering. So, I feel like I take away things from most people. There are a couple that I just don't like, but there are not that many of them. It's kind of what's your favorite movie? You can take away anything from any movie. What about you? What got you into
it? So this seems weird to say now in light of how everything has turned out, but like I say, given my age, the very first stand-up comedy show I ever remember watching, and they played it on Cinemax like every day for years, is Bill Cosby himself. And so I remember watching that and thinking, wow, this dude gets paid to just sit on a stool and tell jokes. That's kind of cool. And then I remember, a few years later, me and my buddy Brad got a hold of his older sister's Richard Pryor albums, and we sit and listen to them. And I mean, we were probably, I don't know, 8, 9 years old, so it was mostly just funny because we knew we weren't supposed to be listening to it, and he was cussing a lot. Like
That is the biggest thing, isn't it? Like when you know
at that
it's wrong.
time, like in retrospect, going back and listening to it later, I was like, yeah, I had no clue what the fuck he was talking about, but it felt funny because, like I said, it wasn't supposed to. But then later on, like when I finally got the itch to actually do it, where I'm like, I'm gonna fucking do this. I think. I was really into Doug Stanhope. This was around like 2005,
Doug
2006.
Stanhope, but that's when I forgot. He's like, I adore Doug Stanhope.
He's awesome.
He's on the Rushmore.
His Something to Take the Edge Off album with Henry Phillips playing the bass in the background is one of my favorite albums of all time. But he's one that really stuck out. And Dave Attell, big fan of Dave Attell. And two guys I've gotten to meet over the years, which was really, really cool. But
oh shit,
it's crazy because and I don't know if this is how if you ran into this, most everybody does. Is you make your friends laugh and family and different people like that, and then people are like, "Oh, you should be a comedian," and people hear that all the time. And to me, that's like telling somebody like, oh, you drive your car over the speed limit, you should be a professional race car driver. Like, people have no idea what goes into being a comedian.
I hate the other side of it worse when someone's like, oh, you do comedy. Well, yeah, they're like, say something funny.
Man, like, and I've even got a bit I do on stage sometimes where it's like, stand-up comedy is the only profession, if you want to call it that, but at the level of guys like me and you're doing, it's not a profession. We're not making a living, but we're hoping to. But stand-up comedy is the only thing where, like, if you tell somebody you do it, they want you to prove it on the spot. Like, nobody tells somebody like, hey, what do you do for a living? Like, oh, I work at the tire store. Like, hey, rotate these tires. Like, that just don't fucking happen. But anybody that tells somebody, they're like, oh, I do stand-up comedy, tell me a joke. Which is the worst thing. Like, you're just like, fuck you. Like, I'm not telling you a joke.
Especially like you're trying to have a beer or something like that. Oh, you're a comedian, say something funny. Like, I could never, I wish I had like an allergy. So I just be like, oh, you're a doctor, and just like swallow peanuts. And then just like, all right, go to work. Like, fucking.
Prove it, buddy. Let's see what you got. Come on, man. So,
yeah. Because, like, I love doing it. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely love, attempting it. But I absolutely hate, like, especially like if you've just gone up and then you get down and go somewhere else. Like, oh, you do comedy. Tell me a joke.
That is the worst, dude. And like, people don't understand. Like, people that don't know anything about comedy, who really haven't studied it, and they just kind of watch it or whatever. Like, they don't know all the work that goes into it. I mean, they think that people just walk up on stage and they're just rambling. They're just being funny. And the really good ones make it feel that way. It seems that way. But like, when I first started, I wrote a little bit of material. I went to the Star Dome, did the open mic. And the first time I went, it went really well. The second time I went, I tried the same material, but it was a different crowd, and I bombed. I'm like, fuck, that worked last time. And in the middle of what's crazy is that in the middle of it, after I do like 4 jokes and it's not working, I just revert to heel wrestler. I just start like ripping on people in the crowd, like just making fun of people and shit, being an asshole. And after I got off the stage, like the club owner was like, "What the fuck was that?" Like, I was like, I panicked. I didn't have any other material. I had 3 more minutes.
Oh, you got talked down by management?
Yeah, one of the only times that he was hanging out back there watching people. And but I also had this thing too, like, from the wrestling side of things, like, you don't go out and cut the same promo twice. So every time I come, I was trying to do new material. Like I wouldn't keep working on the same stuff. So tell us about how you got started in comedy, like what that process was, of kind of like developing some material, your first time going up, that sort of thing.
Well, actually, I got lucky enough. The first time I had no intention of going up. So there was a dive bar, since closed, in Montgomery, where a drinking buddy kind of mine ran an open mic. I never went. I always enjoyed it, but like I never quite went up. And I was out there shooting pool with a coworker, and one night, and they just didn't have anybody like sign up because this was like a tiny place.
Yeah.
And so my friend that I was shooting pool with was like, "Hey, just sign up and go tell that story." And I did, and it did well, and it went great.
Nice.
And like, I liked the way that felt. So I came back 2 weeks later. They were doing it every other 2 weeks, and I was like, all right, I'll write some different shit. It was more a story based thing. It went up and it went really well. And then I got in my head, I'm like, all right, this shit is easy. I can do this all day. So the next time I went up, I could like I had 30 minutes between getting off work and then being at the mic, and I wrote something quick. I'm like, all right, this will work, and I fucking bombed. Like I ate my dick up there, and then I was like, all right, I've learned my lesson. Next time, I'll set some time apart. Maybe write for an hour. Just for writing an hour for 5 minutes. And I was like, all right, I'll do that. Still ate my dick. Like it was like so like the first two went really well. The first two just like really tanked my confidence, which is frankly what you need.
Yeah.
Because if you kill early on, you're gonna think like, all right, this shit is easy. But then later you find out that like no, sometimes you have to go up intentionally to bomb to see what works or not. Just to write what you have, and maybe 3 of them work, and then check those off. And I don't think a lot of people understand that that's part of the process.
It is.
Like I went up right before that was the last thing I did before I came up here, and I would give myself a C-.
It really is, and people underestimate too. Like, I mean, it's never the audience's fault, but then again, different audiences dig different stuff. I mean, I've done the material that is absolutely killed, and then turn around and done it somewhere else, and it was like, eh. And then other times it just completely ate shit, and it's like, I mean, you just have to basically, to be effective, you have to bank enough material to where if you go into something and it's not working, you can shift gears and go another direction. But if you have no other direction to go, then you just drive that plane straight into the fucking ground,
It's weird because you kind of got to pick between the two, though, because most of the time, like I figure, like if I bomb, it's me. It wasn't. I didn't prepare enough, didn't deliver it well enough, or something. But sometimes, like there's nothing you could do for the crowd.
Yeah.
Like I felt like I was going to be cannibalized in Florida recently. It was 2 nights back to back, and one like the first one went really well. The other one, like these people would step on my children, like they fucking despised me, and there was nothing. Like, I told one joke in the middle, or actually, no, it was toward the beginning, and I just lost this matriarch of a family in the middle of the room. It was a small room. But after that, like there was nothing I could do to come back from it. Like it was fucking over. Like I've been fatality. Like it's done.
That sucks, man. And it's terrible. Like when you've lost them and there's no getting it back, but you still got time to do. You just have to go ahead and just forge ahead and do your best. But
then that's where you get to make like. Most of the time, I would try to win them back, but like I just like made eye contact and like doubled down, which 9 times out of 10 I would never go that route. But it was the nature of the joke, and I knew like the reason why she was mad about it.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you do when like the room is just turning against you? Or does it matter? Like, is it a situational thing?
Situational usually, but for me, like So I've always been a heel wrestler. When I wrestled, managed anything I've done,
Well, heels,
and
like it always looked more fun.
oh, absolutely. Like I told them early on, like if you want to be a babyface, I don't even want to do this. Like there's no fun to be had. And so really, I mean, I always liked comedy. I was a fan of it, but the only reason I decided to start doing it actively is because my ex-wife just hated wrestling, and me and her would fight for 2 weeks before it was time for me to do a show, and a week after. So so I just finally just decided it wasn't worth it, and I just got out of wrestling for several years and quit. And I was like, I need something to scratch this performance itch that I'm not getting from wrestling. I'll go do comedy. So, I mean, used to my goal was to go out there and have everybody hate me, and so it doesn't hurt my feelings to be in front of a room full of people that don't like me. So if I have a show comedy
Well,
wise that
that's
starts
playing
going
it
bad,
safe.
I'll just fucking lean into it.
You're
I
on
don't
your
care.
feet. It doesn't matter. That's actually kind of cool. That actually like going from heel to comedy. That's genius.
And I was already a fan of his work, but I was listening to an interview, a podcast that Anthony Jeselnik did with, I
Love
think,
him.
dude, he's absolutely one of my favorites. Because he's so different than I mean, you get a lot of people copying him now, but when he first came around, there was nobody like him. And I was listening to him. I think it was on Jay Moore's podcast actually, but he was talking about the fact that when he was developing his stand-up character, that he was a wrestling fan at one time, and like he remembered being in Madison Square Garden when Razor Ramon was a heel, and he's cutting a
Fucking love
promo,
Razor Ramon.
and he's watching all these people boo him, and he's like, why can't somebody do this in comedy? He's like, why can't you be the bad guy in comedy? He's like, everybody talks about you're a character, your comedy character on stage. He's like, why can't you be the bad guy? And he said that's kind of where he based his whole comedic character. And of course, he's really, I mean, the misdirections. Like his favorite joke of mine to this day, and I've seen all his specials. We've seen him live a couple of times. Um, my favorite joke is um, when we were kids, my parents always believed in keeping a gun in the house to protect their 5 children. But of course, they eventually got rid of the gun to protect their 4 children.
No,
I
while
love
I
that.
love offensive humor, like my favorite joke of his was a relatively clean one, which is odd because I am definitely not a clean person by any stretch of the imagination. But I love the one where he's like, my father was a very private and secretive man. He had a saying, but he wouldn't tell me. That's my fucking like. That's like so.
Yes.
There's no fat on it. It's like a perfect joke.
Yes.
Like it's even though that's like probably the cleanest thing he's ever done. It's my favorite, despite like me loving like the horrendous shit that he says.
Yeah.
It's because that's like there's nothing left to it. It's just like
Yes.
boom, 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 over. Perfect.
It's completely
Nothing could be
simplistic
added.
but
Nothing could be
genius,
taken away.
like yeah, exactly. Um but yeah, so I've just kind of thought, just like, well, if they're not digging me, then we'll just lean into that and we'll give them a reason not to like me, and most of the time it goes all right. I mean, I don't usually talk about this openly because of the whole wrestling aspects of kayfabe and all this shit, but I do stand up as Gene Jackson, but I also do stand up as this character, Whitey Jenkins. And so I've been kind of going back and forth with that. I've got completely different sets as the two different characters. And so a couple of times at Happy Hour in Anniston, I've gone up and opened as Gene and then come back later as Whitey with the wig and glasses and all that shit.
I have to know. Have you ever done it back to back?
No,
Do a quick change like a
they
magician.
wanted me to, but there's no way. Like, there's so much crap to put on. Like, it's not really. I mean, I ain't gonna say it's not possible, but I just didn't want the stress of it. But what the thing of it is, like when I did them on the show on the same night, I went up as Gene, and I didn't intentionally bomb because I didn't bomb, but I intentionally didn't tell my best stuff, and I kind of did it half-heartedly. just so that when Whitey come out, he got a lot better reaction. And the crazy thing was, like, most of the people in the room didn't realize it's the same guy who had came out and opened that was coming back out doing this character, which just
See,
blows my mind.
crazy to me. Like I
Yeah,
love that's amount.
and that blows my mind because I think I just look like it just looks like me with the stupid glasses and a wig, and I'm my voice, doing a stupid voice. But a lot of people didn't realize it. But I really hated doing it because I mean you're trying to remember two different sets for one thing, and it's all the changing and all that is just. The club owner tries to get me to do it all the time. He tried to this past weekend. I did Gene on Friday and I did Whitey on Saturday. On Saturday he wanted me to do both. And I'm like, no man, it's not fun. At that point it feels like work. And the minute this shit feels like work, I'm not fucking doing it. Unless I'm making some major money, and I'm not making major money. But speaking of this weekend, I did both those shows I did with Dan Alten, which I understand Dan, right?
Oh yeah, actually, the last Thursday I opened for Dan at Goat House in Montgomery. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was the night before because I worked with him Friday and Saturday night, and what was funny how it came about that came up was we were talking, and he said something about yeah, I've done comedy at this weird place in Montgomery called what's that game? What's it, Games? Whatever. What's
GT South.
At GT South. He's like, I've done it at GT South. I started laughing. I was like, I've never done comedy there. I'm like, but I did a wrestling show out behind there, and he goes, I saw pictures of that. He's like, yeah, I saw. And so he was telling me a lot of weird stuff about that place.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff about that place. We commentated that thing, then right after there was like a lingerie contest inside. Like it's.
Yeah, I hear some shady stuff is going on that bed that's in there, but
we call it the Cuddle Puddle. So I imagine
the Cuddle Puddle, and it's that name in itself. But yeah, because I mentioned, I was like, yeah, we did that wrestling show. I was like, yeah, I did commentary with Fomby, and he's like, oh shit, yeah, I worked with him last night. And we had a whole conversation, but Dan's a really cool dude. Like we had a lot of fun just hanging out before and after the show and talking about comedy and talking about wrestling. He's a wrestling fan too. Because I said something about, like, before we really talked too much about it, he said something about the owner, about this other chick that was on the show who's like a big TikTok star. And I said something about, she's got him all marked out. And Dan just died laughing. He's like, oh, I love that you're a wrestling guy because you use that wrestling lingo, He's like, I don't usually get to drop that in front of people when I'm at comedy shows. I'm like, yeah, sorry. I said that drops into my everyday vernacular. Like I'll be at work and say something that people don't know what the hell I'm talking about because I'm using fucking wrestling lingo. But yeah, he was really cool. I hope you get to work with him some more.
Oh yeah, like I think it's my third time, like doing, and like what I love about him is he's like a walking cartoon character. He's so animated and just like into it and goofy, and
yes,
that's where my humor is, but that's not at all what I do. Like I watch him and I wish I could be that, but I personally I'm the polar opposite. God, he's so fucking funny.
He is. I mean, because like you say, he could just stand there and not even say nothing. Just the way he kind of, just the way
he's like a walking Looney Tune, and it's fantastic, and I love it every time. Like I would never turn down an opportunity to watch him.
And I mean, dude's out making it happen. Like me and him were sitting there talking, and he's like, "Yeah, I had a show here, and I was like, "Damn, man." And he's like, yeah, I just decided I was going to do a run through the Southeast. And so I started reaching out to people. And I mean, he had set up all these shows, that took him from through Alabama, Mississippi, up to Memphis, and then back around to Louisville. I'm like, damn, man, that's how you do it. Like, I wish I could have the time. I mean, I got to work a real job, and he's doing it full time now. I'm like, I wish I had the time to do that. But I actually am, after talking to him and this weekend, I was like, man, I'm going to have to actively try to get some other places. Like, I can't just do this one club, once or twice a month and call myself doing it. Like, I got to go out and try to make some shit happen. But it's hard to do. I mean, unless like that's another reason too. That's another reason I want to do this podcast is have people on, network, get to know some folks, and hopefully get some opportunities to go some new places and perform in front of some new crowds. I mean, I'm not ever going to get famous doing this or rich or anything else, but I have fun doing it. And, I'd like to go do some different things. I mean, like this club in Anniston, I mean, it's cool. I like the owner and all that, but like, man, it's a complete crapshoot. Like you'll go one night and it'll be full and you have a great show. And then like Saturday night, we had 6 people there because Alabama game started at 7. People just didn't come out. So you got me and Dan and this Twinadime chick that's, like I say, a TikTok person. And you got six fucking people in the audience. I've done shows there in front of 2. Me and me and a guy named they call him Mr. Inappropriate. He's an Atlanta comic, black guy out of Atlanta, and I'm Whitey Jenkins that night. And we show up on a Friday night. There is one 75-year-old black couple in the audience. So I'm like, Flint, we're just going to cancel this, right? He's like, no, they paid. They're eating their food. Like, go up and do y'all's show. I'm like,
all right.
So, Whitey Jenkins and Mr. Inappropriate. What a pair. So I go up and I start doing my act. And then the old guy's just like asking me questions. Like, we're just having a conversation. So that just kind of devolves into we're just basically talking for about 10, 15 minutes. Then I get off the stage and Mr. Inappropriate goes up and he just does his act. Like, doesn't matter. This is a 75-year-old couple. Like, he does his vulgar fucking act. And I'm just like, all right, I'm out. I can't even hang around. This is too awkward. And I mean, there's been a few shows there where there's like 2, 3 people in the crowd and that's it. And then there's other times that it's wall to wall. You never know what you're rolling up on there. And I mean, that's good sometimes. I mean, I think it's good to have those challenging nights where there's just 2 people there, but not frequently. Not as frequently as it's been happening there. Like,
yeah,
it's rough, dude. There's nothing fun about that. And then the thing to me, too, is it's like it's not fun for the audience either. Like, these times when, I mean, just like Saturday night when there were 6 people there, Dan's just like pretty much corrals these people and he's just like, interacting with them, and then he's talking about their reaction. Like, well, that kind of sucks for the audience. Like, you didn't come there to be a part of the show necessarily. You know what I mean? Like, if it was me and my wife there, my wife would be like, "Let's get the fuck out of here." Like, I don't like being this, heavily focused on, to where it's just like almost like it's just a conversation more so than a show. But it's a learning experience for sure. Like, what is your most memorable thing that you've had on stage, whether it was like just good, bad, indifferent, whatever it may be, what really sticks out in your head the most?
There was one that was weird because I haven't gotten heckled often, which thankfully I'm not even sure how. It's only happened like once or twice, and I made it through. But there was one thing where I said something where a guy disagreed, and he didn't talk to me about it until after, like, it was at the old, like, same bar, GT South, but it was an old location. So it was a different part of town. Did my set. I thought it went well. And then this guy, like, pulls it on me. He's like, hey, by the way, which is terrifying. So I might have went into some like religious material that night. I'm not super religious, but I didn't feel like I was like really offensive. I'm not like just doing fuck Christ shit. But I made a joke about a church thing that I encountered that didn't make sense to me, and he got really close to my face and was accosting me about it. And when he was done, I said, well, what the fuck are you going to do? Forgive me about it? And then I walked away. And I never saw him again. But, like, there was a minute where, like, this guy's going to melt my nose. Like, just, like, put fist upon me.
Yeah.
But Eversane's are really lucky because I live in a very small town. And in a 15-minute drive, which is way closer than, Montgomery, where we did the wrestling thing, there was a venue right before I started that would occasionally let us do or let comedians do a mic. I wasn't there yet. And this dude would set up a system for mics, so everyone could hear you when you did your comedy. But he hooked a keyboard to it with a laugh track. And then he was watching comedians perform and just hitting the button like for the laugh when he thought the punchline would be. And it was fucking up everyone's timing.
Oh my god.
This is,
Damn, that's rough,
I don't
dude.
even know what I would have done. Yeah, like that.
Yeah,
You never
yeah.
know what you're
I
gonna
would have
run
been.
into
Yeah,
like that.
I would have been. Would have been like, okay, we're not doing that. Like, fucking stop. You're just gonna fucking stop that, okay? Like, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah,
You know,
a good friend of mine was actually the one to stand up and be like, "Hey, stop."
yeah. I mean, I know you think you're helping, but I promise you're not. Like,
Now, this might be the worst thing you could do.
exactly. But back to your experience with the guy coming up and berating you about your material. Like, that always amazes me that people take, like, somebody's up on stage just telling jokes, trying to get a laugh out of people. That people take it that serious that they feel like, no, I'm fixing to talk to this motherfucker. Like, he needs to know what I think about this. I mean, I don't know, man. Like, I've never. Maybe it's just the kind of person I am, or whatever. Like, I've never been to a show of any kind, whether it's comedy or music or wrestling or anything else, where I was just like, I don't like this, and they need to hear about it. By God, like, we're gonna discuss this.
Like, I'll talk shit to my friends, but I will never
Oh
stand up
yeah,
and be like, "Oh, by the this is fucking like you're on stage right now doing a play." Like it's fucking Mamet or something. Like it's ridiculous to think that you
yeah.
stand up and be like, "I am actively not approving of this." It would never even occur to me.
No, I mean, it would just be like, okay, well, I guess I won't come next time they're in town or something. I don't know, but yeah, it's pretty wild. And something else too is the fact that, I mean, I don't know about you, but like, I've got jokes that I ain't gonna say I don't necessarily believe in, but it's not like necessarily something I feel strongly about. And there's some jokes just for the punchline, just to get the laugh. It isn't necessarily even something how I really feel or whatever. It's not something I feel strongly about. It's like, hey, this will get a laugh. But the fact that people take everything that a comedian says on stage serious, like it's something that needs to be debated or something. It's like, a lot of times, like, okay, I don't even really feel that way. I'm just telling a joke. Like, it's not like this is a speech or a TED talk or something where I'm sharing ideas that need to be discussed, and I'm trying to sway your opinions or change how you think or vote or whatever it is that you're change your religion or get stop going to the church you're at because of some dumb joke I told on a Saturday night at a bar. Like, come on.
What? I thought we were both out here preaching, man. You're out here spreading the gospel. But no, like
I mean, that's
I
how
have a
they look
joke
at it.
about me having resting racist face, which means that I'm just like a mediocre looking white dude with a beard and a baseball cap. I'm not saying I'm racist. I don't say racist shit, but I say
Yeah.
that I have resting racist face. Like if you saw me, like just on that video of the
Yeah.
yeah, you would believe it. Like yeah, I fucking knew it. Like,
Yeah.
but that's not the way that I believe. It's for a laugh.
That's something like I've pondered changing the name of the character Whitey Jenkins because
What?
people, I
What's
don't
your
know.
best runner up? I
That's
gotta
why
know.
I haven't. That's why I haven't done it because I don't even have an idea. But it's because like people have this assumption like, oh, this is going to be fucking racist. I'm like, none of the material that I do as that character is racist.
How
It's
about
not.
salty
It doesn't even
Jenkins?
deal with race. But it's to the point where I think they're like I pretty much only use it as that one club because I don't think I can get booked other places. I think they hear that name and see the character and they're like, okay, we know where this shit's headed. We're not doing that, So, but everybody, all my friends are all like, no, fuck that. You can't change the name. That's half the charm of the
How about Ashy
character.
Jenkins?
Whitey Jenkins. The first time I went up at happy hour, I just showed up, and the club owner was like, "Yeah, go put your shit on and go up." And so it was like it was all black comics from Atlanta, and so somebody comes and hands the host a note, and he's like, "Okay, the next guy coming to the stage," he's like, "I'm really confused because his first name's the whitest name I ever heard, but his last name's Black. I mean, Jenkins sounds like a black dude." He's like, "So I don't know what the fuck we're fixing to hear, but let's bring him up, you know." And then everybody everybody laughed and it went over well. But even he came up to me after the show and he's like, "I ain't gonna lie, man. When I seen you and read that name, I thought that was fixing to go a whole nother way, dude. Like I figured I was gonna be ready to fight you after the show." I'm like, no, but I was like, the name is kind of. I said the name seems racist. I said because the whole character. I said here's the deal. I was like, this character is actually a parody of like 3 different shitty wrestling promoters from Alabama. And one of them is like a card-carrying Klan member, or used to be. So I made the name Whitey.
I don't think you put your card back in, probably, right?
Yeah.
It's like, no. He retired. Like,
but I made the name that to mock him, and I never. So like, this guy I know did like comedy wrestling shows. And so I created that character because I didn't want to be me on those shows. So I created this character for that show. And then I started making these YouTube videos and putting them up on our YouTube channel. And then I had a real wrestling show that does TV over in Mississippi that we're going to do this weekend, as a matter of fact, me and Mako. Wanted like, hey, we want to put Whitey on TV. I'm like, it's a comedy character. What the fuck are you gonna do with him? He's like, oh, we want to use him. And so
can you blur my face out like cops?
so we started doing it there, and then somebody's like, man, that's really funny. Like, when you do stand up, do you do it as Whitey Jenkins? Like, no, I never have. And they're like, well, you should. And so I was driving back and forth to work, and I was thinking about it. I'm like, that opens up a whole nother new batch of material that I could do, completely different than what I do now. So I just started writing some stuff, and then I went to this club down there and tried it, and it started working. Well, then for like a year, I just only did stand up as Whitey Jenkins until I got like a 30-minute act together, and now I've just started writing new stuff for Gene. Friday night is the first time I went up as Gene since like April, and I don't know. I think I'm fixing to lean back into doing more stand up as Gene and put Whitey on the shelf. Comedy wise, I'm still going to do stuff with him for wrestling and these goofy YouTube videos, and I'm probably fixing to do another podcast with him because I've only got like 4 fucking podcasts. I need another one, like a hole in the head. But I think I need to go out and try to make a name for myself as Gene, because I think and I talked to a guy about it that's been around comedy for a while. I'm like, what do you think? Like, should I just do the character or just not do the character? Like, am I pretty much just spinning my wheels trying to do both? And he's like, if it was me, he's like, I would just be you and do the character in your act, but not have to have the glasses and all that bullshit. Just do the voice and take on the characteristics of them, and you'd have the best of both worlds. I was like, you may be onto something there. So that may be something I do in the future too, especially if I've got a lot of time to fill, because that'd be a way I could merge those 2 acts together to some degree and use both. But
so you can always reference Whitey, right?
Yeah.
I think it's important. Like, we've never seen each other do stand up. So we commentated that one wrestling match together, which I would probably be banned for life because I was in a place, I guess. But I'm kind of curious. Like, what is? I need a sentence in Whitey and in you, just like because I've never seen Whitey.
I wish I could. Let me see if I've got like a clip or something we could upload right here real quickly.
And it's not like I'm walking across the street as you, and I'm walking across the street as Whitey.
So I've never done it without the shit on for a long time. So I wanted the character to be kind of Andy Kaufman-esque, where especially like when it comes to wrestling, I'd never acknowledged that Gene was Waddy. Like, actually, this podcast right here is the first time I've ever openly talked about it anywhere, just for fun. But I find it hard to just do without without context. Like I said, if I could find a clip to put up, that would be better. Honestly.
I just realized, like, I was trying to get through the process of getting this up, and your your name is Gene Jackson. Mine is Y because I was trying to get through the process faster. So under my face, there's just Y.
Yeah,
which I think
noticed
is
that when it came up, I was like, so yeah, there's a little Waddy Jenkins clip uploading. We'll play this here in just a moment.
I will join it immediately.
You can kind of see the two if it ever finishes loading. But anyway, yeah. So, and I think that's something's kind of weird too. Yeah, we're two people that do comedy. We're sitting there talking, but we've never seen each other do comedy, which is weird. But I run into that a lot, you know.
Okay, you're just gonna be like, well, I didn't know his material. We're gonna delete him. He's wildly racist. Like, I'm not, but like, you know, you didn't know that going in.
Yeah, I mean, this thing's loading really slow. But anyway, I'm glad to hear you're a cat person. I've got 3, and
oh yeah,
one, and
all right, she's being a bitch right now.
Yeah, one of them plays the producer of our podcast. Yeah, on cue. I mentioned the cat, and there she is.
Yeah, I got 1.
There we go. Yeah, we had 2 for the longest, and we just like a week ago got a kitten. And
it's so dark you can't even see her. We'll just assume she's there.
We'll take your word for it. All right, so here we go. Here's a little clip of Whitey Jenkins.
How y'all doing? Whitey Jenkins here. I just want to remind y'all this Saturday, August the 13th, me and my buddy Dave DeBoe gonna be down there at the Happy Hour Comedy Club in Anniston, Alabama. We gonna be standing up and doing comedy. Well, Dave's gonna be standing up. I gotta work that day, so if they got that chair out there on the stage, I'm probably gonna sit in it, but...
Okay, so that just looks like me in a pair of sunglasses doing a stupid voice, right? Like...
No, I think I've drank with you at 10:48. I think I've met you in disguise.
And that's what's weird is like I showed that to my boss. Not that video. That's not a very good video. But I showed him like the EPW wrestling, like me on TV, and he was like, "Yeah, if you hadn't showed me that with your phone, like I would have known that was you." I'm like, "Are you for really?" He's like, "No, I would have known that was you." And then I showed it to my parents, and my mom and dad was like, "Yeah, I could have flipped past that on TV and not known that was you." And that just boggles my freaking mind. But you know, but that the stupid redneck character, and you know, people. Another thing that annoys me about it is like people hear that name or just see a picture and like, oh, it's like Larry the Cable Guy. I'm like, fuck you, no, it's not like Larry the fucking Cable Guy, but it is in a way because it's you're doing a character and all that jazz. I get it, but it always irks me whenever somebody says that.
How long have you been doing like stand up? I'm just curious. I like hearing people's like bad stories about it.
I started in 2007, but it's been
that's the year that I graduated high school.
Jesus, I graduated in 1995. See, I feel old as fuck. But I did it, and I started in 2007. I did it for a while, and then I stopped and didn't do it for like a few years, and then I started back, and then I stopped, and then I started back, and then I stopped. So it sounds a lot longer than what it really is if you talk about doing it on any consistent basis. But
tell you the truth, like the anxiety that I get is the opposite. So I'll get people like, oh, well, I started when I was 23, and I was like, well, I didn't, get around it until I was like, fucking 29, 30. They're like, yeah, that's too late, and then they walk away. And then it's like, oh, fuck, it is starting too late. Like, people were like, oh, there are a lot of comedians that started late. And sorry, yeah, like Rodney Dangerfield, and then no other example.
I was like, that's the go-to.
Fucking nobody.
Rodney Dangerfield didn't get over till he was 50 something or whatever the fuck it was, and it's like, but I mean, that's the thing is like, I did it after I had done it. I'd already done it a few years. I did a comedy workshop like course at Stand Up Live in Huntsville for like every Sunday for like 6 weeks, and it was Jonathan Craig and Scott Eason and a couple of guys from around Huntsville that worked quite a bit. Did the did the workshop, and it actually was one of the best things because several people was like, "Man, don't do that. That shit's a work. Like no, don't do that. People can't. You're either funny or you're not. People can't teach you." And I agree to that to some degree, but where it helped me is like comedy was something I did completely alone. Like I would write material when I was married to my ex-wife. I would not run any of it by her. I wouldn't tell her any of it because I knew she didn't have a particularly great sense of humor, and I knew if I said something and she made a face or didn't react, then I would never.
And that's going to be my closer.
And so, and then even like since I've divorced her and like I've been married to my current wife for almost 10 years. Same thing. Like I write material, I don't run it by her, I don't run it by anybody. I try it on stage. Well, that workshop, like the first hour or so, they would teach whatever they're teaching. Then we'd break up into groups and we'd kick around ideas, and we would have stuff we'd written through the week, and people would you'd tell it, and then they would give you tags or improvements, whatever. And then the last 45 minutes, we would each go up on stage and do like 5 to 6 minutes apiece. And that was the first time I had ever did comedy with someone else and bounced ideas off anybody and got reactions to my shit. And there was several jokes that I had been doing for a long time that I really tightened up, and it helped a lot doing that. And then after we got out of that, it's back to me doing it by myself. I don't ever bounce anything off anybody, and I know it would be effective if I did, but I'm just always like, I've got more faith trying it on stage than. I hate telling jokes without context. You know what I mean? Like if me and you were sitting here right now, I was like, "Hey, what do you think of this joke?" And I just say it without, because if it's just two people talking, you're not gonna say it with the same inflection and act it out and do it like you're gonna do it on stage. You're just gonna be like, "Okay, so the joke is I go across the street."
Well, that's why I hate when someone says say something funny, like, "All right, like this is the joke," but then you're not going to deliver it. You're not going to give inflection. You're not going to
exactly
gesticulate or any of that. You're just gonna, all right, well, A to B to C, and they're gonna be like, that sucks.
Yeah, and you're like, "Oh, fuck me! I'm never saying that out loud again."
Like, all right, I'm gonna swing at the fences. There's like 4 people in here. I get to spread my wings. If 2 of these laugh, I will keep working on it.
So yeah, that was a long way around, I guess, to getting to the question of asking you. So, what is your process? Do you have friends that you run stuff by, or do you just write things and then go try it on stage? Or do you have a process now? I know we kind of talked about your early process when you're starting out, but what is it now?
Well, quite honestly, I'm not doing great at the process. So I try to write things. So if I go to any kind of mic or any kind of show, I will try to start with an opener that works and a close that works, and maybe work some other things in between. If there's a lot of people, I will just go to the things that have worked in the past. So I get really self-conscious about trying new things, which is dumb because that's where it comes from. It's going up there and bombing and being like, all right, I did 5 minutes. These 2 jokes work, and I'm bad at doing that.
Yeah,
that should be the process. But right now, I live in a place where there's an open mic every 2 weeks that I get to go to, and then when I get invited to do things out of town from the people that I've ran across, I usually do like 90% of my strongest material and then 10% of experimentation.
Yeah.
So the process is it would be a luxury if I had one. I write a lot of stuff, and then there's barely any chance to do it other than every other week right here in town.
That's more than most people have. It's like, I use the comedy club in Anniston pretty much like almost like an open mic, because like I just have to try new stuff when I go there, because there's not any open mic unless I want to drive all the way to Huntsville, which from Gadsden is a pretty good freaking haul. I mean, it's like an hour and a half
Oh yeah,
during the
same
week,
here.
and the way my work schedule is, there's just really no way to make that work. But I wish there was an open mic where I could go try stuff out, and stuff like that. But I mean, that's the cool thing about the club in Anniston. Yeah, the crowds are inconsistent; it has its issues, but I could go up there every weekend if I wanted to. I mean, if I have that option, so I mean that's pretty cool. But it so like that's one thing I've been trying to develop is like a process, I guess you should say, because like like over the last since I started doing, well, I'd say years before I actually ever got on stage, I started reading like any books I could find on stand up, all the cliche comedy books. I've read them all, and I've watched every kind of workshop type stuff, or where a comedians like giving tips and all this kind of shit. And then podcasts came along. I mean, I've listened to tons of podcasts. I listen to Joel Byers' podcast, every week and all that good stuff. And listen to what other people do. And it makes me feel like shit. It's like, man, I'm lazy. Like, and there's people that write every freaking day. And like, I have trouble writing unless I know I've got a show coming up. And then I'm like, fuck, I need to sit down and work on this and either figure out what I'm going to do or write some new stuff, or, whatever it is I'm going to do. Before I have to go do the show. But again, long-winded way to say something. I say all that to say, in all those books, you can go on YouTube now and just watch hours upon hours upon hours of people giving comedy tips, comedy classes, comedy, all this. And they all talk about stage personas and finding your voice and all this kind of stuff. Do you feel like at this point, the amount of time you've been doing it, do you feel like you've found your voice? Do you have a specific persona that you feel like you're portraying up there, or at this point you still just kind of, hey, I'm going up, I'm telling my jokes and seeing how it goes?
I know this is a bullshit answer, but I wouldn't say that I've found my voice, but I think I'm in the right direction. So when I first started going up, there's this guy that's way better than I am, way better than I'll ever be. And he told me to be more animated, like, louder, just walk around, swing my arms. And I'm not that guy.
Yeah.
And while he is, he's way better than me, like murders, I knew I could never kill trying to do that.
Right.
So I think it was first like being like, no, I'm not that guy. I will never be that guy. One of my favorite comedians, in our little circle is a one-liner guy. I'm not a one-liner guy. I've written maybe 3, and maybe 2 of them would work. I'm usually a story guy, and I punch them up. But like, you can admire somebody without taking their full advice.
Yeah,
I think is the takeaway from that, because he was like, you really need to be up here. And I'm like, that will never work for what I look like and what I sound like.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things I took away from that. So I think the best advice is fail kind of a lot.
And don't be afraid to, go up there and try things until until something hits. But then that's the other thing too, is it's always like, be yourself, be yourself, be yourself. But to me, when I got the most comfortable, and then in turn it improved when I did Gene, but like being a complete character made me more comfortable on stage, because it's like, okay, I know who this guy is supposed to be. I know who I'm portraying him as. So I know exactly how to act, how to talk, how to be this person that I want you to think that Whitey Jenkins is. But then when I go up there as me, I know who I am as a person, but I don't know how that translates to comedy persona and all that.
Well, I can't imagine having 2 things you have to do. Like, I can barely do one.
And the only thing I can think is, That's where the work needs to be for me as far as Gene goes, is figuring that out. Because like I say, I know who Whitey's supposed to be, so I can lean into that and play into that. But I don't think about who Gene's supposed to be because I'm more focused on the material. So I'm like, okay, well, then maybe I need to concentrate on coming up with some things that I make sure I get across as me. But then that just feels weird. It feels weird saying it. Feels pretentious, like even saying shit like that. That's not like he's thinking way too much about this shit. You're telling jokes, dickhead. You're not
How do I get to be two
Shakespeare.
people when meanwhile my guess is half a person? Now I get it.
But that's I mean, I don't know. That to me is the kind of what makes comedy fun and interesting is, there's all these elements to it. And most people think it's just go up there and be funny. It's like, no, man, I wish it was that easy.
Every time you invite somebody to do that, they don't. Every time you're like, all right, well, show me how it's done. They never do.
Oh, yeah. No. Well, because I can't tell how many times well, if I would just go up there and do so-and-so. Okay, well, I can make that happen. I can get you a spot. Like, we can do that next. I got things to do. And,
it really baffles me the amount of people that think you can go up there and do like comedy covers. Like, all right, if I'm doing karaoke, I will do Faith by George Michael. And then someone's like, I'm going to go do the open mic stand-up, so I will just do fucking Bernie Mac. That's not how that works.
Yeah, I'm going to do My Sister's Kids by Bernie Mac. And then I think I'll close with Football or Baseball by Carlin.
Yeah, we had to do like one of the open mics. He came up and I swear he did like an entire Mitch Hedberg set. And then,
Dude,
fucking us morons had to go up later.
When I started doing open mics in like 06, and it's kind of like this now, but it was really based on who was popular then. You could stand to the side of the stage, and just about everybody that went up, you could put your finger on exactly who they were, like, just trying to be. Like, there were a ton of Hedbergs. Dane Cook was a big thing at the time, and everybody was trying to go up and be Dane Cook, which was painful to watch. Larry the Cable Guy, every redneck dude was, his
You
cane.
came up in like the Dust Bowl.
and it's like, man, like I would just stand over, and so that's why at that time, like, I didn't want to be a character. I didn't want to be anything like that, because I'm like, I don't want nobody to just look at me like, yeah, he's doing so and so. That's who he's trying to be. But speaking of giving people the option to go up and they don't do it, and maybe this hasn't been your experience, but like when people hear that I do comedy, same with wrestling, but especially the comedy. Oh, cool, you do comedy? Oh, I want to see you do that. Okay, well, I'll be in Anniston this Saturday night, 9:00. Oh, okay, well, I'll probably be there. They never come. Like, nobody.
No, not even.
Nobody comes to see you.
Like, oh, you mean I have to get in my car? Fuck you.
Yeah. Like, oh, I just thought I could like turn it on a certain channel, or like it would be streaming somewhere. I'm like going somewhere to see you do this shit. Like, it's terrible. Like, I can't tell you how many people I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna come see you. Okay, well, I'm gonna be in your area this time. Oh, okay, well, yeah, I'll try to be there. They're never there. Never.
I hate to do this. I've got to go replug in my charger so my phone doesn't die.
Okay.
I'll be right back.
No worries. Okay, so we're going to be wrapping this up here in just a moment because Benny, our new kitten, he is crying outside the door dramatically, and he's going to end up waking my wife, Rosie, up. She has to be up super early to go to work in the morning. So Tyler gets back. We're going to talk a little bit about the Prestige Wrestling Show that we did commentary on together, and we'll wrap this one up, and hopefully we'll have Tyler on again. I've enjoyed this conversation. It's been a fun show. Hope everybody else has enjoyed it. I hope this noise that's been going on hasn't been too hard to bear. I know it is annoying because it's annoying me. It's in my headset, and I don't know what it is. Maybe it's mine, maybe it's his. I don't know, but anyway, nonetheless, hopefully it hasn't hampered anybody's enjoyment. I was just kind of talking to myself here about
Oh, I just imagine you were plugging your sponsors.
the noise that's been going on, but also the fact that we're fixing to wrap this up here shortly because our kitten's at the door crying its eyes out, and it's going to end up waking my wife up, and she has to be up at like 5:30 in the morning for work. So
do you want to talk about the wrestling commentary?
Yes.
Or what do you want to do with the wrap up?
So I wish I could. Like I said, my YouTube channel got completely shut down, or I would send you a link to me and a comedian named Tim Statham, who used to be like a nationally touring comedian, but he retired, but he still does shows in and around Alabama. And me and him used to do commentary on this, as I mentioned earlier, wrestling comedy show, more or less. And it's not really comedy, it's just wrestling that's just really, really shitty and easy to make fun of. And so this guy would pay me and him to do commentary, and we basically just ripped on it and made fun of it like the whole time. And I would love if me and that guy hadn't had a falling out, like Tim quit doing it, I would totally bring you along, and me and you, because just based on what we did on this show where we were being halfway serious, oh my God, you could kill on that damn show. But anyway, it's a shame. It's not an option, but it's not. But anyway, this was your first show doing commentary. So this show is outside
from everywhere. Like that was
this show. So we come all the way down to Montgomery from Gadsden, and there's a whole, folks, if you're listening to this and you want to hear more about the Prestige show that we're talking about, me and Sanders and Scott Morgan did a whole podcast about it, pretty much reviewing the whole show. But for me and Tyler's sake here, just to give you a Reader's Digest version. So we show up at this little place, ST Games, GT. I never remember.
GT South.
GT South. I always want to call it Games or something. GT South is a small little bar on the side of a road in Montgomery, and we get there, and they were setting up a ring out in the grass behind the bar. And so they're setting everything up, and me and Mako were standing there. Mako, a friend of ours who was running this show. And I'm looking around at where the ring is, and I see a power pole way away with a light at the top. I'm looking around. I don't see any other lights anywhere. And this show's starting at 8 o'clock, so it's going to be dark. So I asked Mako, I'm like, hey man, is there any other lights besides that one way over there? And I can tell this is the first time he's looked, and he's like, no, I don't think so. I'm like, it's going to be a problem, buddy. Like, they're recording this. You got people recording it, and it's going to be pitch black dark out here. Oh, shit, what can we do? And I was like, man, the only thing I would know to do would be to have some people pull their cars around here and point their headlights towards the ring. He's like, okay. I was like, but there's going to need to be people stay in those cars because this ain't
That's like the second fight in Lionheart with Jean-Claude Van Damme, just like a circle of headlights.
Yes, but back when Lionheart was made in the 80s, you could just turn on headlights and they would stay on indefinitely. But new cars, they don't do that. They shut the fuck off, so they don't run.
Yeah, they don't have any plugins out at GT.
So they turn all these headlights on, and they sit there with the headlights on, and then the music plays. The two guys come to the ring for the first match, and just as the match starts, all but one set of headlights shut off at the same time. And we're basically watching these two guys wrestle in the dark in the first match. And they had a good match, as best we could tell, with two shadows moving around in the dark. But in the second match, they brought out this big... At first, when they brought it, I'm like, was it a cross they're bringing out here? Like, what the fuck is happening right now? And then turned out it was just this big, long, tall light tower, which was a game changer. You suddenly could see everything.
It did help.
It helped. It wasn't great, but it helped. And all I'm thinking is like, bless Fomby's heart. Like, this is his first time doing a wrestling show. I'm like, I hope he doesn't think this is what wrestling shows are, because this is.
Oh, this is exactly what I thought wrestling shows were. Frankly, really I didn't feel like I deserved to be there.
Well, I would like to think I didn't deserve to be there. we're probably not talking about it in the same way.
We absolutely aren't.
But no, Mako's a good buddy of mine, and honestly, I mean, considering all the challenges that came up from the time he got there until the time the show was over, it came together pretty well. Honestly, the matches were pretty good. They figured out the light situation. I haven't heard anything about what they've done with the footage or if they were able to sync up our commentary with what was going on in the ring, because I mean they just pinned microphones to our shirts and we just sat there and talked, and how the fuck you would sync that up after it was over with, I don't really know.
Oh, even then, because I remember you had to mine I don't know how long mine was off.
Oh yeah, your shit out, the battery shit out on yours. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it was probably that should be a blessing, really.
So what was your takeaway? So I mean, like I said, it was your first one. Did you have a good time? Is it something you'd want to do
I
again?
had a blast. I just
cool.
And it's weird because I came in kind of nervous because I've never commentated anything before, and as much as I love wrestling, the minute that I stopped having cable, I just didn't really watch it anymore. So I was like, oh, I hope I know what everything is. But then it came back kind of like, all right, that's a Hurricane Rana. That's a power slam. That's and so it started to come back. And then, that the point where I said, what was it? That's an injury that's going to stay around like cum on corduroy. And then I heard it like 8 feet away go, the fuck did he just say? So I was trying to do I was trying to be poetic and maybe too poetic.
No, it worked, dude, because somebody, like during the intermission, you had went in to the bar or the bathroom or wherever the fuck you went, and the guy who was running the camera come over there and he's like, dude, you killed me with the come on corduroy line. I'm like, no man, that wasn't me. That was Tyler. Like I can't take credit for his joke. That was his. He's like, oh man, I was dying over there. He's like, all y'all shit was funny. And we had some guys sitting in front of us, that like during the intermission was like, man, y'all are killing me with the commentary. So I was like, okay, well, this is coming off good. So hopefully it sees the light of day somewhere. I don't know what the plan is. If it's, oh shit, it froze up. Great. I don't know if people are still hearing me or we're completely froze or what's going on right now. But on my end, Tyler has disappeared. There he is. He's back.
Yeah. I was trying to figure it out. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, something froze up. It happens. I'm surprised it hasn't happened more than just that one time. But anyway, like I said, I don't know if they're going to put it on YouTube or what their plan is on how they're going to get that out in the world. But I hope.
Well, I'm ready to be fired from Starbucks. So throw it up, wherever you can.
I don't think there was anything too terrible in there. Nothing to get you canceled anyway. Maybe some people get offended by the language, but I don't think there was anything. They're gonna.
That wasn't me. I'm just vulgar. There's a difference, right? You can use the
Absolutely.
words. You just you can't do something out of line. You can't target people. But yeah, just remember the next morning when I was thinking about reflecting on what I had said, it was like, all right, that was kind of a lot. There was a come on corduroy, stomping on dome, folding a dude like a fucking lawn chair. I was like, I will never be invited back.
Oh, I mean, Mako will love it. I mean, like I said, he told me because he heard some of it, and I guess somebody told him about it because afterwards he's like, dude, y'all did exactly what I wanted. Like that was great. I wanted it to just be fun. He said I didn't want to sound like this wrestling commentary. He's like, it was perfect. I'm like, cool. I think that's what we did.
I have heard him say that he felt like the PG-13 era kind of ruined wrestling commentary.
Yeah.
Right after Attitude and all that shit, he was like, yeah, I don't want that. And so when he asked me if I would do that, I was like, hey, am I allowed to drink and cuss? And he was like, yeah, I'm kind of banking on it.
Yeah, he's probably going to disappoint me with mine because I didn't lean into that aspect to it in the early going because he really didn't tell me what he wanted. He's just like, I mean, you guys are funny. I know y'all, we'll make it good. So I didn't really know. I'm like, all right, well, I'm just going to kind of see how this goes and go with the flow. Because like I said, I've done horrible, vulgar commentary where like Hotspots didn't want to sell the DVD because they said a lot of it was questionable. Some of the things me and Tim said.
The
Then like
funniest part of
once
this,
Come On Corduroy came out, I'm like, okay, I see where we're going with this. We're all in. Good, I'm there.
the funniest part of this to me is like he told me that I was going to be commentating with somebody, but he described Whitey Jenkins and not you. So I was looking for Whitey Jenkins.
I mean, I asked him, I'm like, which one do you want? And we went back and forth on it. But the last thing we discussed, he's like, well, you're Gene on the podcast. Let's just be Gene. I'm like, okay, that's fine.
So I
And
walked around
honestly,
3 times, like probably waving like a lost child at Disney World parking lot or whatever the fuck. And like I was looking for like he's like, oh yeah, white dude, mullet and shit. And I was like, all right, there are no mullets in here. And
what's
I kept
crazy is I
by.
did put that shit on for like 20 minutes and we shot a video and did some stuff. And I'm like, fuck, it's hot with this stupid wig on. Like, no. And I told him, I'm like, dude, I don't know if you wanted Whitey or not, but I'm like, I'm not sitting around here outside at night in a fucking wig. Like, just, no, I'm not doing it. Which I could have did the voice because nobody saw us anyway. But, you know.
Yeah, it killed me because like when it like finally I walked past this guy 5 times and you didn't tell me it was just him. Like I was looking, like I walked past you. I think I might have asked you to find you. Like, hey man, you know Whitey? Like it was.
Oh yeah, because like I said, I'll always kayfabe. Like I fuck that guy. I don't know where he's at. You know, like.
Oh, I would too. I don't blame you. But then when I sat next to you, we did all that shit. And what that cracked me up is, you know, when I told what I was allowed to do, you looked at me and you gave me like a look of like a fatherly approval. Where like, all right, I guess I'm gonna say fuck too. I guess we're in Montgomery, Alabama.
Yeah, I mean that's where basically it was. I'm like, well, he's going to set the tone. I mean, we can do this as clean as necessary, or you know, we can get a little rough with it. And then, like I said, after a couple things you said, I'm like, oh, okay, he's coming in hot. All right, let's do this. I'm here for it. Let's go.
That's why you're professional.
So you know, like I said, I wish you could see some of that shit me and Tim did because oh my lord. Going back and seeing some of it later on, I was like, yeah, I guess some of that is well, especially like this was like 2017, and so when you went back and watched it in like 2020, when everybody had gotten real uptight, like some of the jokes we made about one of the Mexican wrestlers was probably considered a little, you know, not racist, but questionable,
but close,
but close enough, but enough plausible deniability. That is my motto in life. Whatever it is, whether it's wrestling commentary or being at work, plausible deniability is where it's at. As long as you can be like, that's not how I meant it.
If you're commentating, you be like, yeah, that was my character. I don't really.
Yeah, exactly. Which is all the more reason I should have put the stupid wig on, because then I could just be like, I don't know. Let me go find Whitey. He's back here somewhere. Then you just get in the car and fucking leave at that point, you know.
Oh fuck! After I said "come on corduroy," I would have put my wig on backwards so the mullet was in my face. I'd have been like
cousin It from that point.
Yeah, it could have been anybody. I have no idea.
Well, man, this has been a lot of fun, man. I've enjoyed talking to you, and I hope we get a chance to work together some more, whether it's wrestling commentary or we get to do stand-up somewhere. Like I said, we'll try to get you up to Anniston sometime, and I'm working on trying to line up some gigs here and there, and I'll definitely keep you in mind if I get anything lined up. And if you ever know of anybody that needs a fat guy that's moderately funny or that has a mullet, I can show up with either one or both if need be.
Yeah, I probably couldn't do that for you because you're not fat, man. You're beautiful.
Oh, well, you're comfortable lying, so I like that about you as well. That's a good trait to have as a comedian, or especially a wrestler. You're ready for the wrestling business. If you can look straight in that camera and say that, then you're ready to promote.
I'd be the Andre the Giant of dwarf wrestling. Like, no,
hell yeah, you could be the promoter. Like, brother, I promise you go out there and fall through on that gravel out there. We gonna have you some money after it's over. And then they're like, where's Fomby? Like, oh, he's been gone. Like, he got my money. Fuck. And that's who Whitey Jenkins makes fun of, is those types of promoters that exist all over Alabama and Mississippi. So that's what he started out as, was a parody of wrestling promoters, and now he's a fucking idiot on stage doing stand up.
I mean, I think you combine the two because, I mean, a lot of people make fun of their, like, just weird jobs. Like, when I first went up, one of my was like making fun of how weird factory work is. Like, all right, we have a lot of alcoholics making helicopter parts. That's fucking terrifying. And I think you combine Whitey and you, and thank you for having me. Thank you for.
Absolutely, man.
I loved commentating with you, and I would absolutely love to see. Let us, just marvel at each other stand up, or not marvel at each other stand up.
It'll be fun either way. We'll definitely have some fun. If we could ever pull off a show where me, you, and Dan could all work together, that would just be a riot, in my opinion. And who knows? Maybe we will.
We're in the Southeast, so geography is the worst problem. It's like, all right, where can we go and not get stabbed by church people?
That's true.
There are a lot of good comedians out here. We need to do something. I'll hit you up about it later. Maybe we'll figure something out.
Yeah, we're gonna figure something out.
Even after we figure it out, I'd be glad to be a part of it.
Hell yeah. And like I say, we've had a lot of fun tonight, kind of digging into, there's so much to be said about comedy, and I'm always fascinated by how people get into it, why they get into it, and like I say, what their process, or
why they should be.
Some people don't have a process, and that works for them. So I find all that fascinating. So I'd love to have you on again in the future, and maybe someday, we'll have some kind of round table on here. We'll get 3 or 4 of us on here, and just kick some shit around and have some fun. But anyway, man, I'm gonna let you go. The alarm clock goes off pretty early in the morning, so I'm gonna hit the bed. But again, it's been a pleasure, and take care and keep tearing it up out there, man.
All right, man. I appreciate you having me out.
Anytime, buddy. Take care.
All right. Have a good night.
All right, man. There he is, Tyler Fomby. Funny guy. And who knew I would go to Montgomery for a wrestling show outside of a bar and make a new friend. But I feel like I have. And I feel like that we'll probably have some more wrestling commentary in our future, and hopefully we'll do some stand-up shows together. Right now I'm reaching out, looking for different places. So hey, if you know of a comedy venue and think you can help me get something going, hit me up, genejackson95@gmail.com or cheapeattvlive.com. Either one, that's where you can go. You can find me, and we'll make something happen. So until next time, I'm Gene Jackson. Thanks for watching.